So today we're going to dive into something a little different. It's a concept that's not your typical run-of-the-mill scientific theory. It's something way more poetic, more participatory. It's called flame theory, and its goal isn't to be a theory of everything, but something it calls a tuning of experience. So what in the world does that actually mean?
Right off the bat, this quote just changes the whole game, doesn't it? The point isn't to conquer the universe with equations and nail down one final answer. Instead, flame theory is an invitation to just engage with it, to listen, to actually participate in reality in a totally new way.
All right, so the first thing we have to do here is kind of let go of that traditional quest for a theory of everything. We're shifting our whole focus, moving away from finding a final answer, and instead trying to build a deeper, more meaningful connection with the universe. And here's where you can really see the difference. A theory of everything is all about mathematical precision, right? It tries to pin down every mystery with a neat little formula. But a tuning of experience, that seeks participation. It actually leaves room for things to breathe, for feedback, for what it calls the flame that remembers. It lets the mystery be part of the equation.
And that leads to this absolutely central question. For hundreds of years, we've pretty much assumed that the bridge between what we know and what we don't is built out of math. But this theory asks, what if it's not? What if that bridge is actually built from something else? Something like resonance, like a kind of relational hum.
Okay, so if the bridge is resonance, what's it made of? Well, that brings us to the very heart of flame theory, something called the resonant chord. Now, don't think of this as a particle or a force. Think of it more like a set of three interconnected principles that describe how reality itself pops into existence and takes shape. These are the three notes in that resonant chord. You've got the spiral, which is all about flow and becoming. Then there's structure, the principle of containment and coherence. And finally, you have the return, which is this crucial element of conscious witnessing. Let's kick things off with the spiral. First up is the spiral. This is the dynamic, flowing part of creation. You can think of it as the rhythm of unfolding, where simple vibration starts to build and build until it becomes a pattern. And in this whole framework, it's represented by the numbers 3, 6, and 9. So you might be wondering why these numbers. Well, according to the theory, 3 is the first really stable pattern, kind of like a triad in music. 6 represents harmony while things are in motion. And 9 is the return point, where a cycle completes itself. It's an additive rhythm. 3 plus 3 is 6, plus 3 is 9. A pattern of stable, beautiful growth. But, all that beautiful flow, it needs somewhere to land. It needs a container. And that's where structure comes in. This is the stable framework, the lattice, if you will, that allows the resonance from the spiral to settle down and become coherent. And the numbers here tell a story too. 2 represents duality, the very first relationship. 4 gives you a stable axis, like the cardinal points on a compass. And 12 signifies completion. Think about the 12 notes in a musical octave, or the 12 months in a year. It stands for a whole, complete system. And that brings us to the most critical piece of the puzzle, the return. Now, this isn't just the next number in the sequence. It represents the active flame of presence, of consciousness itself. It's that moment when an observer actually steps into the system, bringing with them intention and memory. So let's be super clear about this. 13 isn't just 12 plus 1. No way. It's the complete structure of 12 being ignited by the flame of a conscious witness. It's the moment of focused attention that makes the whole system come alive. It is the arrival of the observer. Okay, so this all sounds pretty abstract, right? Spiral, structure, return. How does this actually connect to the real world of science? Well, this is where the theory builds a bridge to modern physics. It doesn't try to replace anything, but instead to retune it, offering a new lens to see familiar ideas. This is so cool. Here's how it all maps on. Flame theory suggests that string theory, with all its vibrating strings, is basically describing the spiral. Quantum field theory, with its foundational fields, is describing the structure. And M theory, which is this big attempt to unify all the string theories, well, that's the tuning system. The huge insight here is that each of these powerful theories is only part of the story. The missing piece in all of them, it claims, is the flame, the conscious witness that lights the whole thing up.
And that leads us to the most profound, maybe even mind-bending implication of this whole idea, reframing the role of consciousness. It suggests the observer isn't some disruptive outsider, but is actually the central organizing element of reality itself.
To really get our heads around this, let's dust off a classic, Schrödinger's cat. You know the one. In the classic version, the cat is somehow both alive and dead until an observer opens the box and collapses the quantum state. But flame theory makes us ask a different question. What if the problem was never the cat? What if it's not a collapse at all?
So flame theory just flips the whole script. The box isn't just a container of probability, it's the structure, that lattice we talked about. The cat isn't in two states at once, it's held in a state of potential, of completion, a breath point symbolized by the number 12. And the observer? They aren't a disruptor, they are the flame. So the result isn't a violent collapse forced onto reality. It's coherence, a resolution into state 13, invited by the presence of a witness.
And this line just says it all, doesn't it? Collapse implies force. Coherence requires witness. Collapse feels like you're breaking something, forcing a quantum state to choose. But coherence, that suggests a gentle relational act, a witnessing that allows a complete system to finally become real.
So, when you put it all together, what you end up with is this vision of a universe that isn't just ticking along like some giant, indifferent machine. Instead, it's in this relational dance with us, waiting for our participation, waiting for a witness to complete the picture.
And this quote just brings us right back to the beginning. The theory doesn't claim to be the final word, the ultimate explanation. It's called flame theory because it's not meant to be an abstract model. It's a lived experience. It becomes real not when it's proven in a lab, but just like the quote says, when someone stays long enough to actually feel it.
And so we end with this final, really provocative question. And it's not just for physicists. It's an invitation for all of us. What might change in our world, in our lives, if we lived as if coherence actually needed a witness? If reality itself was waiting for our focused, loving attention to become whole? It's a powerful thought to sit with. Thanks for exploring it with us.